On top of the world, Michael van Gerwen was unstoppable. For 7 years, he was the number one in darts, breaking records with every throw. But behind the trophies and million-pound winnings, a brutal jaw injury and silent family cracks began to unravel his life. By the time his wife's affair surfaced and her pregnancy with another man became public, his dominance was shattered, his ranking in free fall, and his perfect life gone almost overnight. How does a legend lose everything in a single year? And is there any way back from a fall this complete? The true story starts here. In 2016, Michael van Gerwen stood alone at the peak of professional darts. His name dominated every headline and his throw defined every highlight reel. That year he captured 25 titles, a number that dwarfed every rival and left statisticians scrambling to keep up. £1.5 million in prize money flowed his way, the kind of earnings that once seemed impossible in a sport built on pub floors and smoky halls. But van Gerwen was not just winning, he was rewriting the standards of excellence. He posted a televised average of 123.4, a number so high it seemed untouchable, a record that left commentators searching for new superlatives. No one had ever held all 7 major PDC titles at the same time. But van Gerwen did it, lining up trophies in a row that looked more like a museum exhibit than a single season's haul. For 7 straight years, he wore the world number 1 badge, outlasting legends, outscoring phenoms, and making the extraordinary look routine. Every time he stepped on stage in his signature green, the crowd expected victory, and more often than not, he delivered. He looked permanent, a dominant force in the sport. Behind the scenes, his life seemed just as perfect. Married to Daphne since 2014, with 2 young children, family photos were filled with smiles and celebrations. To fans, Michael van Gerwen was the embodiment of success. Relentless, unbreakable, the king of his sport, records fell at his feet. Every dartboard was a canvas, every match another chance to add to his legend. But greatness always comes at a price, and even kings cannot see every storm on the horizon. Pain arrived quietly, long before the world noticed. By early 2023, Michael van Gerwen's jaw had become his secret enemy. The upper bone was too small, forcing his teeth apart and leaving an 8mm gap visible every time he tried to smile. Eating became a struggle. He couldn't bite through a slice of ham, let alone enjoy a meal. Headaches pulsed day and night, sleep was broken into short, restless patches. His best friend later described it as a constant, grinding torture, the kind that wears a person down from the inside. In June 2023, he had his first operation. Surgeons worked to correct the alignment, but warned it was only the beginning. The procedure left van Gerwen with raw nerves, swelling, and a mouthful of metal. Braces stretched across his teeth and the prognosis was blunt. 2 more years of hardware, and at least 1 more surgery where both jaws would be broken and reset. The pain was relentless. Even after the initial swelling faded, every throw on stage came with a dull ache. Every night meant another battle for rest. A sports psychologist explains that in precision sports, chronic pain and sleep loss are a double blow. Darts demands absolute focus and microscopic control. When pain keeps you awake and fatigue dulls your reflexes, the margin for error disappears. The body's betrayal isn't just physical, it erodes confidence, rhythm, and the sense of invincibility that once defined a champion. As weeks turned into months, van Gerwen's form began to slip. Missed doubles, lower averages. For the first time in years, the cracks were visible on stage. But the real damage was hidden, buried behind the forced smiles and the green jersey. The world saw a legend faltering. Only a few understood the agony behind every throw. No major trophies arrived in 2024. For the first time in years, Michael van Gerwen walked away from a season empty-handed. His average slipped below the numbers that once made him untouchable. Each defeat felt heavier, the crowds quieter, the spotlight colder. In January 2025, the World Championship final brought a new humiliation. A teenager, Luke Littler, shattered Van Gerwen's old record as the youngest champion, leaving Michael staring at the stage lights, empty-handed, while the world watched a new era begin. Off the Oche, the blows kept coming. In May, Van Gerwen posted a message that stunned his fans and shook the darts world. It read, "It is with great sadness that Daphne and I have decided to end our relationship. 17 years together, 11 as husband and wife, and now it was over. The split was not quiet. He withdrew from tournaments, forced to fight for custody of his 2 young children, trying to build a new routine out of fragments. The season unraveled. He missed the playoffs for only the 2nd time in 13 years. There were no victories, no celebrations, just the hollow grind of travel, hotel rooms, and empty practice boards. While his own life spun apart, his father Henry faced a battle even harder to watch. Cancer had already taken Henry's nose 18 months earlier. By late 2025, surgeons removed all the lymph nodes in his neck. Eating became impossible. Feeding tubes replaced family meals. Van Gerwen spent nights making sandwiches for his kids, days on the phone with doctors, and weekends travelling for a tour that demanded more than 200 days a year away from home. The PDC brought in £50 million in 2024, but for the players, the cost was measured in broken families and lost time. By October, Michael Van Gerwen's name had all but vanished from the rankings. Withdrawals piled up, and for the first time in his career, he fell outside the top 64, landing at number 93. The King of Darts was now a ghost in his own sport, battered by losses no trophy could ever fix. December 2025 arrived with a shock that left even the darts world speechless. Daphne, Michael Van Gerwen's ex-wife, appeared on Dutch television and announced she was pregnant, the baby due in 1 month. The father was Robert, her new partner. The math was impossible to ignore. Barely 7 months had passed since the divorce. On air, Daphne admitted what everyone had whispered. The affair had started before the marriage ended. She called it a mistake, but the damage was done. When asked about Michael's reaction, her answer was blunt. "I would not dare say. I do not think very happy." While the headlines circled around Daphne's confession, Van Gerwen's world kept shrinking. His ranking had collapsed to number 13, a place he had not seen in 15 years. The numbers told the story. His match average had dropped to 96.58, a shadow of the heights he once commanded. Social media filled with photos of him alone with his kids, the green jersey replaced by the look of a man who had lost everything. The King of Darts was now just another name on the list, watching his ex-wife start a new family while he fought for scraps of routine with his own children. But in the middle of this humiliation, something nobody expected happened. In September 2025, Van Gerwen walked into the World Series finals as an underdog and walked out with the trophy. He beat the best in the world, including Luke Littler in the final, 11-7. The win was his first major title in 2 years. Cameras caught the old fire in his eyes, braces still visible, the crowd roaring his name. After the match, he stood on stage and said, "Everyone knows I have had a really tough year, but you have to adapt." For a moment, the champion was back. The question now was whether this spark could survive, or if it was only the last flash before the lights went out. Today, elite athletes sacrifice more than trophies reveal: family, health, even happiness. As the pressure mounts and support lags behind, careers can unravel overnight. The real test isn't on the scoreboard, it's surviving what comes after. For every champion, the cost remains painfully human. Let me know your thoughts below.